There we go. Hello, hello, welcome everyone. Always fun while we're connecting in and everyone starts to join us. We have a star-studded panel here for you today. I'm excited for this one. I'm excited to be here with Lisa Loud. Lisa, I'm gonna quickly ask you what's the title of this talk here today, and what are you here to talk about?
We are here to talk about transforming finance, which I think is one of the most exciting topics in the world because finance fuels change.
Perfect. Sounds good. I'm looking forward to this. In the audience, of course, you've got the chat feature on the right-hand side still. You've got the Q&A section. Please do use the Q&A section. Upvote those relevant questions that you want. We like to see them. You've got the emojis down at the bottom. Do emoji. We all love those few thumbs ups and everything. If something resonates with you that they're talking about, do use it. And Lisa, with that, I'm going to hop backstage and let you introduce everyone.
All right. Thank you, Nikki. All right, we do have quite a lineup today, so I'm actually going to ask everybody to say, just say your name and your role, and then if you could say what you think in, let's say, 10 words or less, what is the most important thing about transforming finance today? Why don't we start with Marcello?
Oh, wow, what an honor. Thank you, Lisa. My name is Marcello Mari. I'm CEO of SingularityDAO, director of SingularityNET. And I think that we are transforming finance because we are making it accessible to everybody. We are finally creating an infrastructure whereas everybody would have access to complex financial tools that before were only reserved to very few. Now everybody can access them.
Thank you, Marcello. Mariana, what is the most important thing in transforming finance?
Hi, everybody. My name is Mariana Gomez de la Villa. I work for ING, which is an institution, a bank, a financial institution. And from our perspective, transforming finance is really important because you have to look at different perspectives and all the impact that it can have at different levels, including, for example, social, what happens to the system, etc. So I think it's an evolution as well that needs to happen.
Thank you. David Siska, what is the most important thing in transforming finance?
Hi, David here from Vega Protocol. I think the big thing coming up is programmability and composability, which connects to what Marcello was saying. This is what's going to enable bespoke products for various individuals who previously couldn't access them because things were too expensive and complicated and could be only accessed by large institutions via, let's say, investment banks. And now, thanks to blockchain and composability, it's coming for everyone.
Thank you. And then let's go to Stani.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm Stani. I'm the founder of Aave. The Aave protocol is pretty much a decentralized protocol running on multiple networks, such as on Ethereum, Polygon, and Avalanche. And essentially it allows cryptographic asset holders to gain yield and then borrow liquidity against their cryptographic assets. And Aave is one of the biggest protocols out there. And what's interesting for me in terms of like what decentralized finance could do for finance in general is to bring this kind of like a financial infrastructure into the hands of communities and into the hands of the users. So instead of traditional, let's say financial institutions having their own stakeholders, actually the users become the stakeholders and will govern these protocols, and very like an important infrastructure. And I think also the fact that it brings a lot of transparency. So each and every single transaction in decentralized finance can be audited by anyone, and that makes very like big value proposition to make better, safer, and more risk-averse finance.
Thank you, Sani. And David Post.
Hi, David Post. I'm Managing Director for Corporate Development and Strategy at Chainlink Labs. Chainlink is a decentralized Oracle network that connects smart contracts to off-chain data and computational resources. And I think I would agree with most of the panelists that it really has to do with access. I think at this point in the life cycle, it probably is technological access for developers, so you can abstract away a lot of the complexity associated with accessing decentralized finance services. I think that the work that Stanley and the team are doing on Aave Arc is a good example of this. And I think that to the extent that we can allow kind of like abstract the complexity out of the world that we live in from a DeFi perspective, it'll make it more accessible to mainstream users who will access it, obviously through, I think, probably aggregation platforms or directly as opposed to interacting with 20 of these different protocols individually.
Great. Thank you, David. So I love this panel because we have representation from across the board. We have tool builders. We have AI, especially in DeFi. We have financial institutions represented, and building blocks, chains. So I think what we're looking at is like, it's great that we have all these people here, because the rebirth of finance, the renaissance of finance, is really going to take people from all of these areas to contribute to it. What I'd like to start the conversation with is kind of the vision. What do we see as, and a lot of you answered that a little bit, the vision of the future with the new finance, decentralized finance, and Web3. What do we see as, I guess there's two parts to this conversation. One is, what is the vision? What is the best part about that? what's it gonna look like in the future? And then the second part is, what is keeping us from that right now? What's frustrating right now? I know I have my own frustrations. I bet some of you are gonna voice them, but open to anybody who would like to start. What is the vision, and what is keeping us from that vision right now today?
May I start?
Of course, please go ahead.
From our perspective, and probably, we are focused on a different range of customers, right, than the guys probably that are speaking as well in this panel. A lot of the times, the customers that have access to this new range of digital assets, actually, and DeFi protocols and all these kind of things, is people that has been educating themselves, right, and has evolved together with the ecosystem. And it does require a huge amount of research. It does require a huge amount of sometimes, mistakes. I mean, how many times we have heard people losing their assets or having hacks or things like that, right? And therefore, I do believe that we still need to help bridge the gap to the people that hasn't had access yet, right? And that might be either, by enabling certain tools, so then you can actually access, together with obviously Web3, the whole ecosystem. That might be by education, for example, and a lot of the gamify type of platforms are really putting a lot of effort on that. Or that might be on the social responsibility that you hold, for example, in our case as financial institution, right? So there's still a gap that we need to bridge, that we have as ecosystem, that we need to help our customers that want to have that access as well bridge. And with that, I think it's an effort from the whole ecosystem, and it's not for a few, right? Everybody has to do their part, and I'm really excited about that, because then that would mean that indeed, we're bringing along our parents and the older generation into what we see that is going to happen. And it has always been a little bit, the native immigrants like myself, a little bit hard to, oh my God, I'm a little bit scared on taking this on. But once you do it, then you can teach someone else a little bit of that. So I will appeal to the social responsibility of everybody to help bridge that gap.
Got it. So to restate, it sounds like you envision the future as being involving everybody. Everybody's included. So it has to be a lot more people. And what is between us and that is the complexity of participating right now, and the complexity, as well as the gaps where we can fall through the gaps, the dangers, the risks. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I always say that I would like my mom to be able to use SingularityDAO without difficulty, right? So I think that's the end goal, but that's something that I hear quite often, not necessarily with my mom, but in other use cases. So on one hand, I think we're doing a good job. If we look, for example, at Aave, is pretty straightforward to use, but even even MetaMask, the progress that has done in the last couple of years. If you guys remember how it looked 2 years ago, was much more difficult, and we're still asking people to trust the smart contract, right? I mean, when they trust a bank and institution and they see a physical place they bring their money to, it's different than asking them to trust a line of code, right? So it will take time. It will take a generational shift. However, it's getting better. Something that I think we can improve is ecosystem communication. I think it's about time to end blockchain tribalism, that we should be really talking between ecosystem and take advantage of all the innovation that comes across different blockchains. So interoperability, it's one of the goals, I think, for DeFi, and composability and money Lego, for sure, but we need to make it work across blockchains. And once we reach that level of alignment, then I think we're actually making innovation truly accessible.
Yeah, so your vision is the same as Mariani's, which is global inclusion, but then it sounds like you want people to work together and decide, okay, this is how we're going to do things to make it more feasible and achievable. Thank you. Who else would like to answer this?
For me, the vision is that we will unleash another way of innovation, like happened in the past with, PCs and then internet, and then even, smartphones. Suddenly you could program these things. Completely new applications, business models became available. With the advent of internet, Web 1.0, we got Amazon and online shopping. With mobile phones, we got Uber and Lyft and Deliveroo. And I believe that we will see similar things, coming. But what I'm hoping will be different this time is that the people that want a certain product, there will be the building blocks so that a community can get together and create that product for themselves. And it's something that's driving the vision at Vega, for instance. If you want a certain derivative market, Vega will give the tools to whoever the people who are interested in trading this derivative to actually come together, decide how the market should look, pull together the building blocks, propose the market, and then launch the market with relative ease. And it's very hard to say what exactly this will bring, because before smartphones, no one saw Uber coming. So for me, it's about the process rather than the end stage, which I dare not predict.
Yes. Okay, so you think it'll be something that we can't even imagine yet?
I mean, I think it may be something that becomes completely normal and commonplace and boring, which is, I think, kind of what David and Marcello were going towards. I mean, I think that obviously in any type of innovation and technology adoption cycle, everything seems weird and a little bit, scary maybe at the outset. I mean, when I was talking to someone the other day who was kind of like, around when, in the late 90s when the internet was emerging, and people would say, what is this thing? It's never going to last. It's not going to stick around. And I think you see a lot of this FUD, obviously in our space, but I think it's just it's not knowing where things are going to end up. I think that we hope we end up in a state where more effective ways of transacting, more accessible products, more decentralized products are available to people that need them and want them, so that they can ultimately advance economically and provide better opportunities for themselves and their families. So I think that's the overall end state, and when that end state happens, people will probably start talking about it because it'll be normal. That'll be the status quo.
Right. Yeah. I think we temporarily lost Danny, so we'll come back to him on that. But it's really, to me, it's really exciting to think about what the future looks like, even if we can't predict it. It's like, what are the areas that are going to be completely different? I feel like the new generation envisions the future differently from my generation, and I can't wait to see how things turn out. So with that, I wanted to mention that one of my frustrations with ushering in this new era of finance is really the limitations of the chains. And at the moment, let's talk about Ethereum. What do you think about Ethereum?
Well, I mean, if we are here today, it's because of Ethereum in large part, right? I mean, they brought a gigantic innovation and they've been true to their spirit of decentralization. I mean, apart from a couple of episodes, but I think they led the crypto space, and now they're facing a lot of competition. It's all the downsides, the high gas fees and slow transaction are because they're following their true ethos of decentralization, making decisions that centralized way. It's very difficult. However, I'm hopeful that ETH 2.0 could actually be the game changer. So we'll see how it will transform the overall space. That's a lot of potential changes happening.
Yes.
So
I think that the world. Oh, good.
Sorry, go ahead, David. David Clash, go ahead.
On you, David, first, please.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. I think that I think that at layer 1 and layer 2, so the base blockchains, I think these have gotten a lot of attention. But I think that what David said previously is spot on. Is that as there are advances in technology, especially pertaining to cross-chain messaging, there will be a much higher degree of interoperability between these various layer 1 platforms, which means they will, on one hand, continue to be very important in some ways around community and around places to launch. And on other hands, become less important because if you use like Aave, for example, a lot of the big DeFi protocols have gone multi-chain. And when this advance happens, they're able to go cross-chain. So I think we're going to be going into, through 2022 and into 23, we're going to be much more living in a world where we have one intranet as opposed to a combination of disparate intranets, what we have right now. And along with that, there'll be the seamless exchange of value. So people will be able to basically utilize these blockchains for whatever purposes in which they have a competitive advantage. So some might be cost, some might be speed, some might be security, some might be community. But once people have options, it's going to change basically how Web3 applications think about launching and operating, including DeFi applications. It already has.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what was said. I mean, for me, really, Ethereum is why I love DeFi. I think, when I first started finding out about Bitcoin and these things, a few years ago, I liked the idea, but it wasn't really a matter of the heart. But with Ethereum, it was like, wow, this is amazing. Now I have a platform for computation that can be proven to have taken place and is the same across the world. But Ethereum is a generalist chain. It tries to be useful for many things, and to a large extent it succeeds for many things. It is extremely useful, but there is space for other chains that choose to optimize using different criteria, and then they become better for different types of uses. And there we also see a place where there will be application specific chains where for situations where certain things really matter, you wouldn't be able to do it on a general chain. You have to build a specific chain for the application, and then bridges and interchain interoperability will be key to the decentralized future.
Yes, very good points.
And I might have a little bit or slightly the different points that I want to also make sure that we discuss, and is all the innovation that it has as well enabled, right? It is amazing, for example, when you start thinking about the way the greatest minds that are out there working on, for example, Ethereum, and the transition towards proof of stake, how long it has taken, how many hurdles they have had, and the different perspectives, how they have to actually discuss and the pros and cons from one thing to the other one, and how people has found that sweet spot or that specific gap, that they are covering with their either protocol or with their, as they mentioned, some are focusing on privacy, others on speed, others on, and to me, what fascinates me is that you can just not get enough. You keep learning every single day, and there are always things that you're like, oh, I didn't know that, or oh, I didn't think of that, or and it is really nice to see the amount of people joining forces in order to improve everybody's life. So that is something that it might have started with Bitcoin, but that Ethereum as well kind of like impulsed or power launched.
Yeah, very interesting point. I see Stanley's joining us again, but it doesn't look like he's quite here. So what I hear as a common theme, I'll just talk while he's joining so I can ask him his vision. But what I hear as a common theme around Ethereum here is that they have really brought us to the point where we are right now. So we are grateful for the progress that we've made because of Ethereum, and we're also running up against limitations, and so it's a question of how we will be overcoming those limitations, whether it's multiple chains, whether it's interoperability, or whether it's Ethereum 2.0. Let me check if Stanley, if you're here, let us know, and we'd love to hear your vision of. No, he's not. Okay, we'll come back to him. All right. So. The next question might be a little bit controversial, and Mariana, I apologize in advance for this question, but what do you guys think is the role of banks in the future of finance? Marcello? No, we'll save you for last, Mariana.
Okay, perfect.
I would let the guy, the rest of the panel take it. I mean, I think banks would have to change the way they relate to their customers if they want to survive. I mean, it's inevitable. However, I do suspect they will be sticking around for a long time, and we're building a parallel ecosystem in the meantime. But I don't see banks disappearing in anytime soon, despite all the efforts that we might do collectively. So that's my point of view.
I think banks will definitely be around simply for the reason that they've been around now for hundreds of years, and they are, there are a lot of smart people working in various banks, and they will make sure that they have future in the decentralized finance world as well. In fact, to me, the decentralized finance is not about getting rid of banks because they have tremendous expertise, but it's about leveling the playing field so that you don't necessarily have to be a bank, or you don't have to access certain services via a bank. You will now have a choice. There might be a protocol that does it automatically. There might be a DAO that has been set up, or you choose to build a community or set it up, or you can of course go to a traditional bank. So one version of the future that I can see is that banks become a bit like IBM. IBM hasn't disappeared when personal computers arrived. It just became a lot less important than it used to be 40 years ago.
I mean, I think that banks are, they'll definitely be around. I mean, they're aggregator of customers and they're provider of financial services. So, the advantages of having longstanding relationships with people, right now, obviously people trust brands. That's why they deposit their money within banks, because banks provide them with financial services. But there's no reason I see why it couldn't be code provided by banks that people also decide they want to trust. So once again, I think that stuff like Aave Arc, you can see these worlds kind of coming together. At the end of the day, if yield can be created and distributed to customers, I think that banks like making money, so it's probably likely that they'll continue to provide that type of service. And if they don't like making money, then they probably won't be around anyways.
All right, Mariana, you can answer these. Say what you agree with, what you do not agree with, and anything else you'd like to add.
No, I think they have been already kind, and indeed, I do expect banks to continue, existing, because it's not only about providing financial services. It's also the transformation function that we have in the economy, right? And we also have, or we are systemic institutions that at the end of the day provide some stability. So I do believe that indeed we need to, in certain ways, change a little bit the perspective and rise to the occasion, and then find those new opportunities, for example, and transform the way we currently render services by listening to our customers. And if that's what they want, if that's how they want the services to be rendered to them, then we need to change that towards that behavior. But having said that as well, we also have obviously the other side, right, which is the regulation, and we also need to consider that perspective, and again, the social responsibility, the duty of care, all these other items that we need to take in consideration, because again, this is not at this stage today, either a level playing field, right? It is for a specific niche, let's say, of people that is super smart, that is into that, and if you are not one of those, and if you didn't do your homework, then you're in trouble, or you could be in trouble. So I think again, bridging that gap, it will be a nice opportunity for banks to continue to exist and to find as well their own market within the whole ecosystem.
Great. You mentioned regulation, and I'd like to. It's also something that I know the audience is interested in. In terms of regulation, what do you think the incoming regulation for DeFi, for example, like right now the DeFi pools are largely un-KYC'd. There are some efforts to identify the wallets that are involved, whether they're blacklisted, but for the most part, it's basically a dark pool. I mean, it's unknown, completely unknown who is in that pool, and so if you trade with it, you're taking some risk of participating in money laundering. Obviously, that will change over time. What do you think is, in specifically the DeFi space, how do you think regulation is going to affect that, what you're building and what we are building as an industry?
Shall I answer that? I do believe, for example, that indeed what Aave is doing currently, right, with Aave Arc, but it's not the only one. But indeed, the fact that RegTech is starting into looking into those opportunities, for example, and having different aspects of that regulation and compliance embedded within decentralized finance is going to make it safer for everybody, right? And it's not only the AML what worries, or the KYC what worries, but it is, that consumer protection that needs to be there for everybody's safety. And that's something that indeed banks could definitely provide to the ecosystem. At least not that we should provide those ancillary services, but the learnings from it, or ways to make sure that that things are being done in the right way. And as well, obviously, having asset classes embedded or distributed through these platforms, it also provides different mechanisms for those investors to actually invest their money, right? It doesn't have to be on volatile cryptocurrencies only, but you can also then, invest in asset classes that probably before were also not accessible to you. So from our perspective, it's also an opportunity, right? Maybe you can distribute, I don't know, a loan or a bond or something like that into these retail investors that are eager to, right, make some yield, and that believe that maybe, investing in Bitcoin is not something that they would like to do because of the energy consumption. I'm saying just something crazy here, right? But you also find that kind of people, right? So then, it's a mix of both, and it's just finding the right balance, I think. Regulation is there for a reason, is to protect certain sector, right? To protect maybe sometimes ourselves from history. and we just need to open up our minds and take the best out of both worlds, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this year, is going to be a year where we see kind of crossover companies coming into the space. So historically, with the beginning of the emergence of the internet, e-commerce was something very new and different. Oh, we got to set up a website. We're going to put our credit card in. Once again, this is very normal now. So I think that it'll take regulations a while to kind of catch up with the speed of the market. But I think you're going to see and I'm already seeing this in my vantage point at Chainlink Labs, is companies that have, raised some venture-backed funding. They've got real revenue, and they're saying, okay, if I'm a reinsurer, can I provide DeFi users with access to real-world reinsurance pools in order to provide them with access to that type of yield, which I view as kind of a substitute for a BlockFi or a Celsius if you're trying to generate a higher yield than you could get, in a traditional bank account. So I think that as these things happen and as it becomes apparent that these are viable financial products, which they are because they're already being consumed by more institutional users, there's not accessible to retail users, as Mariana explained. I think that the regulatory environment will have to be shaped about this. But if you look at companies like innovators or people pushing the envelope, the Airbnbs or the Ubers, they're typically operating a bit ahead of what the regulators are actually focused on. And then over time, the regulatory environment calibrates with the speed and the direction that the market is moving in. But I think it's these initial kind of crossover experiments, whether that's something like Aave, whether it's the reinsurance example that I mentioned, that are going to provide some of the guideposts to get, I think, consumers and also organizations more comfortable with this type of a transactional model.
Great points. Yeah. Marcello or David, yeah, go ahead, David. What are your thoughts about RegTech?
Yeah, so I believe, regulation in some shape or form will come to DeFi, that the regulators are paying attention and they can, I don't believe that they want to ban everything because, well, if I believed it, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I believe that there will be models that they will develop, for example, providing regulatory cryptographic attestations saying, this address is regulated by us and meets, this criteria. And then, various protocols will then be able to take this into account and build tools around it so that, for instance, what we can already do in Vega is to create a market that would only settle in a certain asset, and the only people who have access to this asset are the ones who meet the regulatory attestations. So then everyone who's participating will know that they, that they can do it safely within their regulatory regime. Of course, it has disadvantages because it fragments liquidity and it makes things more complicated. And, as David was saying, I believe the right thing to do is to go forward, build experiments, see what's actually needed and useful and what gains traction before, trying to build the regulation for things that finally maybe no one's even interested in.
Yeah, good point. Marcello, would you like to comment on how Singularity views incoming regulation into DeFi?
Yeah, it's not something that I'm specifically passionate about. Regulations, I think it's a necessary evil, but I also think that we will always find a way around regulations. I mean, this is a space that was built by hackers, and hackers will still do what they do best, which is hack the system. So yes, regulators will come, hackers will be fast. In terms of SingularityDAO, again, if we want to play with the big boys, we have to play on the same field. So we will have to find regulations. We will be regulated. We will find a way to be regulated. We will have to KYC everybody using our DeFi instruments at some point, and perhaps apply to some reg extension just to be on the safe side, because our plan is the one to play with institutions and the big boys, as well as safeguarding the users. However, as I said, I think for the whole ecosystem, for the crypto community, for the blockchain space, there will always be a way around regulations. But necessarily, like, fighting the regulator has never been my number one goal in life, as even fighting banks has never been my number one goal in life. I mean, my goal in life is to serve my community, to serve the crypto community, to provide instruments that anybody can use freely and safely. So if we have to be regulated in order to do so, so be it.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned the term necessary evil. So I just want to dig down into that a little bit more. there are definitely different points of view on how much regulation protects consumers these days. And Mariana, you mentioned that we need it to protect consumers. If we look at our current financial system, what are your thoughts about what is working and what is not working in terms of regulation and protection of consumers? I think it's a hot potato. No one wants to touch it. Mariana,
Well, listen,
you're on mute.
I don't have any like thoughts about. I mean, listen, I'm a political scientist. I don't believe markets are perfect, and I believe that there's a requirement that someone steps in to help markets become more efficient. So, yes, institutions do matter, and you hope that as regimes evolve, that they evolve in ways that are going to be make sense. I mean, do they always? I don't have a lot of comments on that. But you hope that what emerges in this space will satisfy the needs of consumers while allowing innovation.
I guess the struggle, Lisa, is that regulation is a humongous term, right? Mm-hmm. And you have to think about where, right? Because it is totally different, for example, the perspective of a regulatory regime that is a little bit protectionist towards their consumers, and they treat them like child. I'm not sure you understand what you are doing, and I'm not sure it's safe for you. And other regimes where, for example, in Latin America, where people really do not believe in the government and they don't believe either in banks. So then, what are we talking about here? Which one, what it doesn't work, again, it doesn't work when you are patronizing and when you think that people is not smart enough to think for themselves. And that's the rise of, decentralized finance and NFTs and all these kind of different business models that are emerging that are amazing, right? And on the other hand, there might be people indeed that is being taken advantage of, and people that might be even educated that is being taken advantage of. So, what I think what David said is right. You have to balance, and it's really hard to find that balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when you see Flocky advertised all over your city, what do you think? Regulators are doing a good job, mm-hmm. or they closing an eye on something that is clearly just speculative value, right? Providing zero value to their community. So I don't think they're doing a good job, and I think they're actually quite slow in tackling some of the largest potential issues of our ecosystem.
Yeah, you raise a good point, and I just want to, just in case, just to keep level the playing field, what is a meme coin? Can somebody define that for us? And then what are the concerns? Marcello, you mentioned one, so you're kind of up unless you want to pass the baton.
Technically, a meme coin is a coin with no value, right? Empty of any value other than the speculative one. We used to call them shit coins back in the day. Now we call them meme coins. However, that's what the community likes. I mean, we can't take the fun out of the community. So, do you see all in this chat all the dinosaurs and dino talks? Those are the SingularityDAO army that uses dinos as our internal meme, just to fund and to support the project. So if we see memes used in that way, and a meme coin could even become valuable in this perspective. However, the current definition of meme coins associated with Dogecoin, Shiba, Flocky, I mean, it overlaps quite significantly with the definition of a shitcoin, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts on meme coins?
Yeah, no, I'm a mathematician and not a social scientist. So meme coins are a very difficult concept for me.
I think it's actually quite simple. Like, the value of anything is what people ascribe value to. So this is all. Our expectations about value are in large part a social construct. They're based upon market factors in some situations, and not there's others. So I think that you could say the same thing for why is a crappy JPEG of a rock worth a couple $100,000? It's because that's what someone's willing to pay for it. So this is what makes this space I think very fun and exciting. Is this it's this experimentation, and it's pushing the boundaries about what are the source of value and how is value created. I mean, what I think is fascinating about the Web3 space is that a lot of value is created by community, because community ascribes values to things. And since we're making all this stuff anyways, is that a better way to ascribe value than traditional supply and demand? I mean, I don't know, maybe.
Or utility.
Certainly a lot of fun. Yeah, certainly a lot of fun.
I mean, to me, meme coins are no worse than gold. I mean, why does gold have value? It's for industrial purposes. It's a pretty useless metal.
Correct.
And we mine it at a great cost of energy and environment. We dig it from underground, we turn it into blocks or bricks, and then we lock it underground again. How is that different to how is that different to Bitcoin? But other than that, it has 10,000 years of history or however long behind it. But I'm more kind of present value of future cash flows kind of guy. That sort of thing has value.
Man, I'm plugging my ears. Oh no, don't say that.
Even hypothetical ones.
So along that line, what do you think of the possibility that crypto will overthrow fiat? It is a question, and I think we could nuance it quite a bit. But do you think fiat has? Let's not answer this with CBDCs. Let's just take CBDCs out of the picture, because that introduces a whole bunch of ethical questions and everything. But if we just talk about people's cryptocurrencies, not governments' cryptocurrencies, do you think that crypto has the potential to overthrow fiat in the future?
I think it does. I think it does. Depends on which crypto we're talking about, right? And so some of them has more potential than others. Some of them has more solid backing than others. Some of them has zero backing, and they've been faking it all the way along, and they're still making it, but they don't have a great future. So I think if we manage to perfect the way that we back and pack these stable coins, then potentially there is a potential to overthrow fiat currency. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else agree with that?
Well, in like 1,000 years, I would say.
Yeah, we'll take time. 1,000, maybe no, but.
I mean, why do people use fiat as a modicum of exchange? It's stable. There's a sense of whether real or perceived that someone is supporting it, that it's going to be worth something in the future, and it's going to be worth basically what you obtained it for. So maybe I don't see this happening anytime soon. I mean, I guess you could think about reasons why you would want it to happen. But I think at the end of the day, I mean, there's been different modicums of value exchange over time, and different modicums of value exchange have been more popular at different time periods. For me, I don't know. I'm not sure how interesting I find the question, because I feel like these things change over time, and if one replaces the other, then it's probably because it's doing something, facilitating economic activity in a better type of way.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. No, sorry.
Go
But I think the borderless. I think the borderless. Sorry. Apologies. No.
Just as long as I have to pay my taxes in fiat, then fiat is going to be around, and governments have got plenty of reasons to want to control their money, and they've got armies to do it. So for me, a good outcome would already be if cryptocurrencies stay and are important in certain parts of the economy. I'm not sure about replacing fiat.
I don't know. I feel like borderless and frictionless transactions could be a good reason to replace fiat. I mean, I realize that when I'm doing my work at SingularityDAO, I use crypto all the time to pay for services, to reward some of our team members, and then I I close my computer and all of a sudden I come back to a system that seems like, 25 years ago, when I have to go to the ATM, get cash, go around with this cash, pay with service. I mean, it would be so much easier if we could use UST, for example, which I find a great stable coin to pay for anything, to pay for my rent. And then, of course, I mean, that's a problem of governments, but are we sure how long they're going to be around for? So,
Right. Yeah, great question. Great answers. All right, if there are any other questions that I missed from the audience, Nikki, maybe you could float those up. In a couple of minutes, I'm going to ask each of you for closing remarks. And I would love it if you could say, if you had a platform and you could tell the entire world something, what would it be? What would you want to share with the world in order to change the world, move us towards the future that you envision? If everybody had this concept, what would it be? Or you can share something else as well that you think is very important in this space. Yeah, I think I did answer most of the questions. So great. So let's go around to the four of us, the four of you, and just give us your closing comments.
Well, okay, there's lots of ways this one could go. I would say that, what do I want to tell everybody? Just be cool, be good to other people at a high level. And in this space, just understand that we're at an early point in the evolution of how things are going to evolve. So I think one thing that I have not been working in this space for years and years, like some of the people on this panel, but one thing I've learned in the last year that I have been working in crypto full time is just keep an open mind and understand that experimentation is normal, innovation is normal. There'll be even failure is normal, of course, when you're going through things like that. But hopefully the sum of all of these activities, creates a better financial infrastructure that's more participatory and allows people to achieve their personal and financial objectives.
Great comments, David. I love the concept of supporting each other, thinking of it as, we're all connected here.
Yeah, I'll pick this up and riff on it. I think supporting each other is great. And one thing that we haven't discussed, maybe because there was no time, is the concept of open source. And I think, we all take it for granted, but, traditional finance very much doesn't take open source for granted. And I believe that, protocols being open source, open to innovation, open to audit will be extremely important. And of course, together with open source goes community, and it will be, the communities that we build and the modes of interaction that we created that will drive this space forward. And in terms of what to say, just, if I had a platform, I think as a humanity, it's easy to lose sight that, we have so much in common, and the things that, set us apart are really quite trivial compared to what we have in common, and it's important not to lose sight of that.
Great, thank you.
I think I agree with David, both Davids actually, and the wisdom of the crowds is something that is quite humbling as well. And one thing that I really love from this ecosystem specifically is that it doesn't matter who you are, where you're coming from, where, like how old are you, nothing matters, but you can reach out to the guy number one wherever, or to the, it doesn't matter. And there are no hierarchies, there are no, the ways you communicate is mind-blowing to me. And everybody listens to you and they try to help you. And it's really, really nice to experience that. When you're starting this.
Nice. That sounds like we all have a vision of a different world, really, from the one that we've seen over the past couple hundred years. Marcello?
Yeah, one of the favorite things of being in this space. One of my favorite things is the interaction with the community. I love the participation that open source, the centralized community have with their own project, which is something that has never seen before, and it's quite humbling and unbelievable to see. So the message that that I want, that I would like to spread is to participate even more. So find those communities, go out there, participate in the chat, discuss, share ideas, vote for your favorite proposals, come together, because this is the right time, and this is the point in time where we are actually creating something that is completely new and has never been seen before. So this is your time to have a say. Imagine imagine when IBM was funded. Did they ask your opinion? Did they ask what do you think of what they were doing? No, they didn't. Did they ever listen to their community? No, because most of people hate them, right? So in our case, it's different. We have all the support from these people. Let's make a good use of it. But people, come in, participate, share your ideas. We're here to listen. Thank you.
Wow, you guys have definitely inspired me. I may be stuck in the past a little bit in my mind, but I am starting to see that the future is really collaborative instead of competitive, and it's really exciting. I hope we can all adjust to that. I hope that we don't have to wait for the next generation to adjust to that. I hope it can be all of us together. Thank you so much, all of you, for sharing your thoughts and your wisdom and your time. And thank you for the great questions from the audience. We'll finish up now and look forward to seeing what you guys are building in the next year or two.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everybody.